Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar calls for global stability at first India-Weimar format meeting in France, eyes to boost ties with Europe. In a weeks-long chase across the Atlantic, US seizes 2 tankers as Trump widens oil grab, says Venezuela will buy American goods with proceeds from oil deal. Trump holds the first call with Colombia's President Petro amid military threats. Discussion on situation of drugs and disagreements held. Both agree to hold a meet in White House. Snow, ice and freezing temperatures wreak havoc in Europe. Air and train services in Amsterdam, Brussels and other cities affected. And in cricket, India's under-19 team completes 3-0 whitewash over South Africa with a 233 runs thrashing in the third youth ODI. And on to the details now, beginning with a positive note on economic front. India's GDP is expected to grow at a rate of 7.4% in the current financial year, up from 6.5% in the year 2024-25. Now, the numbers are especially significant because they reflect increased growth in a fiscal year. The estimates were released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which said the services sector played a big role in the increase this year. The data also revealed that real gross value added is expected to expand by 7.3% in the year 2026, up from 6.4% in 2025. The economy continued to expand at a faster than anticipated rate in July to September, with GDP growth rising to a 6-quarter high of 8.2% on the back of near double-digit growth in the services sector. While manufacturing and construction are estimated to grow at a 7%, the figures are expected to be moderate for agriculture and utility services like electricity and water supply. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the GDP estimates on X. He wrote, and I quote, "India's reform express continues to gain momentum. This is powered by the NDA government's comprehensive investment push and demand-led policies. Be it infrastructure, manufacturing incentives, digital public goods or ease of doing business, we are working to realize our dream of a prosperous India," unquote. And the Census 2027 will kickstart on April 1st this year, with a house listing operation spread over 6 months. Now, the Ministry of Home Affairs published the notification, which also said there will be an option for self-enumeration to be conducted in 15 days time period, just before the start of the house listing operations of 30 days. The census is conducted in 2 phases, house listing and housing census from April to September 2026 and population enumeration in February 2027. Now, in the first phase of census operations, which is the house listing operation, details related to the housing conditions, assets and amenities of each household will be collected, while in the second phase, when population is counted, demographic, socio-economic, cultural and other details of every person in each household will be collected. And External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met the Weimar format, marking a significant moment in India-Europe relations. This is the first time in the 35 years history of the Weimar format that a non-European country has been part of the discussions.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's Paris visit highlights India's growing diplomatic role. The Weimar format, which has been European only for 35 years, engaged with India in discussions for the first time. The meeting reflects India's growing strategic importance for Europe at a time of shifting global alignments and rising geopolitical challenges. Choosing Europe first to visit in this year, Dr. Jaishankar recalled France and Europe are the most important ties in global order.
Europe is such an important player in global politics. It's also necessary that India strengthen its relationship. I think we can bring more stability both into the international economy and global politics.
In a meeting earlier with French Foreign Minister was also fruitful. French Foreign Minister Noël Barrot said India's inclusion signals a deepening partnership between India and Europe. He also pointed out that the talks come at a crucial moment as a major agreement between India and Europe is currently under negotiation and is expected to be finalized in coming weeks.
India, but also between the EU and India a few days ahead of an important summit where significant agreements will be signed. I look forward to these discussions today that aim at strengthening and furthering our relationship this year, where India will be chairing the BRICS and France will be chairing the G7.
Dr. Jaishankar said the discussion with WEMA format focused on strengthening India-European Union relations and on key global issues. He said the leaders exchanged views on the Indo-Pacific region and the ongoing Ukraine conflict. He also mentioned that among India's major international partnerships, ties with the European Union offer greatest potential for expansion, with several new areas of cooperation opening up across political, strategic and economic domains.
We may be located in different parts of the world, but despite that, perhaps even because of that, it is extremely useful for us to exchange views regularly and to share assessments.
India's participation in WEMA format highlights its expanding role in European strategic discussions, with both sides signaling stronger cooperation and tangible outcome in the near future. This meeting was a part of ongoing diplomatic dialogue, but was seen as an early engagement of the Year of Innovation. Discussions held in positive and constructive manner. This is Rohini Goswami in Paris for DD India.
And Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal visited the Hilti Group headquarters and met their CEO Jahangir Dungaji in Liechtenstein. They discussed technology collaboration for safer, smarter infrastructure supported by expanding investments, rapid innovation and strong domestic capacity building. With the group's presence in India's construction sector for over 25 years, discussions focused on advancing localization, increasing value addition and scaling global shipments from India, aligned with our manufacturing and export growth objectives. Well, Commerce Minister also chaired a business roundtable with leaders from prominent Liechtenstein companies. Piyush Goyal highlighted that the India-EFTA TEPA is not just a trade agreement, but a framework to promote investment, technology collaboration, skill development, and resilient value chains. In a post on X, he said from precision engineering and clean energy to smart infrastructure, advanced materials, digital manufacturing, and financial services, the opportunities for India and Liechtenstein to grow together are immense. Minister also invited Liechtenstein businesses to engage with India, explore opportunities offered by the $100 billion commitment to invest in India by EFTA nations and make it a long-term home for their ambitions, deepening our partnership and working together to unlock the full potential of India-Liechtenstein economic cooperation. An ambassador of India to the USA, Vinay Mohan Quatra, met with US Speaker Mike Johnson at Capitol Hill. Quatra expressed a deep appreciation for his support for strengthening the bilateral relationship and thanked him for his solidarity with India's counter-terrorism efforts following the terrorist attack in Pahalgam in April 2025. Now, Quatra also briefed him on key areas of our partnership, including defense and security, oil and gas trade, technology, including AI, as also our efforts to work towards a fair, balanced and mutually beneficial trade deal. And on to some weather updates from across the globe now. Entire North India is in a grip of bone-chilling cold wave. Indian Meteorological Department has issued orange alert for 5 states, including capital Delhi. Almost the entire North Indian plains are under alert for cold and fog conditions. Cold day alert has been issued for multiple states, with a severe cold day warning issued for East Rajasthan as well. Also, ground frost warning has been flagged for Assam, Meghalaya and Uttarakhand. Kashmir is experiencing severe cold, with weather forecast of light rain or snowfall in higher reaches and near zero visibility caused by dense fog over the next few days. In the Kashmir Valley, the 40 days of the harshest winter, known as Chilai Kalan, are living up to their reputation. Meanwhile, southern states such as Tamil Nadu and Kerala may witness spells of rain accompanied by thunderstorms, with isolated heavy rainfall possible in some areas. And in weather around the world, heavy snow and ice battered northwest to Europe on Wednesday, stranding travelers and forcing around 1,000 people to spend the night inside Amsterdam's Schiphol airport. The Atlantic storm Gority brought widespread disruption. At Schiphol, 700 flights were cancelled, marking the 6th consecutive day of chaos at one of Europe's busiest hubs. Airport officials called it an exceptional situation. To support stranded passengers, Schiphol arranged several hundred temporary beds before and after security and provided pillows, blankets, food and drinks. With knock-on effects expected, travelers face the likelihood of further delays and cancellations in the coming days. While Australia's south sweltered through a brutal heat wave on Wednesday that delivered temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius, triggering health warnings, straining power grids and causing bushfires to flare. Meteorologists said the conditions were at their worst in 6 years. The nation's Weather Bureau issued severe or extreme heat warnings for the states of New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania. It also warned of extreme fire danger across Victoria and South Australia. In Victoria, where temperatures reached up to 44 degrees Celsius and 41 degrees Celsius in the state capital, Melbourne, authorities advised residents to stay indoors and keep hydrated. And still to come in this edition of DT India Live. US immigration officer fatally shoots woman in Minneapolis amid immigration crackdown. Protest erupts while Trump defends the act. Oil slips on Trump-Venezuela crude deal as global stocks mostly edge lower.
Goa, a food paradise, both steeped in historical culinary tradition and at the forefront of a modern-day food revolution that is fresher, more local, and more global than ever before. I'm embarking on a journey across the state to explore the very best of food here.
This is honestly my favorite way to eat an egg.
Break bread with some of Goa's most loved chefs and understand what food really means to communities here. Watch Postcards from Goa on National Geographic.
Welcome.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. The United States on Wednesday laid out an energy deal with Venezuela, saying it will partially roll back sanctions to allow the sale of oil products from the country. Now, the details shared in a Department of Energy fact sheet came days after Washington captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, leaving his deputy and other allies in charge. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt said that the energy deal will benefit both the American people and the Venezuelan people. She also said that the United States is selectively rolling back sanctions on Venezuela.
This was a deal made by the president and his team with the Venezuelan interim authorities. This will benefit both the American people and the Venezuelan people. And Secretary Wright and the Department of Energy are working with the interim authorities and also with the private oil industry to execute on this historic energy deal. That's not only good for the United States, but it's also going to revive the prosperity, the safety, the security of both the United States and Venezuela as well. The U.S. is selectively rolling back sanctions to enable the transport and the sale of Venezuelan crude and oil products to the global market. I will reiterate what the president has said a few times now to all of you, which is that it's too premature and too early to dictate a timetable for elections in Venezuela right now.
And U.S. President Donald Trump has since announced that the interim leaders have agreed to U.S.-managed marketing of 30 to 50 million barrels of crude, repeatedly adding that his country will run Venezuela despite having no forces on the ground. Trump also said on social media on Wednesday that Venezuela will be buying only U.S.-made products with the money they receive from our new oil deal, including potential purchases of agricultural goods, medicine and energy equipment. Meanwhile, Venezuela's state petroleum firm separately said that talks for the sale of crude oil to the United States had begun after Washington's demand for access to the country's reserves following Maduro's ouster. Also, the United States seized 2 sanctioned tankers today, including a Russian-flagged oil tanker that was in the Atlantic. The second tanker was in international waters in the Caribbean. Now, Marinera, formerly known as the Bella 1, was empty of oil, but the U.S. says it and the M. Sophia belonged to a shadow fleet of tankers used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth wrote on X, the blockade of sanctioned and illicit Venezuelan oil remains in full effect anywhere in the world. Well, the U.S. is escalating its blockade of vessels that are under sanctions and going to and from Venezuela. The White House also said it plans to roll back some of the sanctions Trump placed on Venezuelan oil in 2019 during his first term. Also, Moscow has denounced the seizure of the tanker sailing under its flag and demanded that the U.S. treat Russians aboard properly and permit them to return to Russia quickly. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump and Colombian President Gustavo Petro held a phone call on Wednesday afternoon where they discussed relations between the two countries. Trump abruptly changed his tone on Wednesday about his Colombian counterpart Gustavo Petro, saying they had exchanged a friendly phone call and he'd even invited the leader of the South American country to the White House. Trump said arrangements are being made for a meeting in Washington between himself and Petro, though he did not indicate when the meeting may take place. This is the first phone call between the two presidents since Trump said on Sunday that a U.S. military operation focused on Colombia's government sounds good to him. And U.S. President Donald Trump has repeated in recent days that he wants to gain control of Greenland. He argued that Washington must control the world's largest island to safeguard U.S. security amid growing Chinese and Russian activity in the Arctic, and claims Denmark has not done enough to protect it. And now U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio would be meeting with Denmark next week. The world's largest island, but with a population of just 57,000 people, Greenland is not an independent member of NATO, but is covered by Denmark's membership of the Western Alliance.
Denmark. Why has the administration not taken Denmark's offer to discuss the situation in Greenland? And
I'll be meeting with them next week.
But will you take military intervention off the table?
I'm not here to talk about Denmark or military intervention. I'll be meeting with them next week. We'll have those conversations with them then.
Well, tensions have intensified since the White House said that the use of the U.S. military is always an option. It said the potential U.S. purchase of Greenland is being actively discussed by President Donald Trump and his national security team.
Well, that's something that's currently being actively discussed by the president and his national security team. And I would point out that the acquisition of Greenland by the United States is not a new idea. This is something that presidents dating back to the 1800s have said is advantageous for America's national security. The president has been very open and clear with all of you and with the world that he views it in the best interest of the United States to deter Russian and Chinese aggression in the Arctic region. And so that's why his team is currently talking about what a potential purchase would look like.
Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul said the future of Greenland was for its people and Denmark to decide, adding that he was sure NATO would remain united as he met his French, Indian and Polish counterparts in Paris. Wadephul said he was pleased, though, that Rubio and Denmark would speak, saying it was sensible and worthy of support. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot echoed comments by Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen that Greenland was not for sale or for the taking, adding these intimidations must stop. Polish Foreign Minister Radisław Sikorski said matters involving territory, war and peace were the preserve of the US Congress, whose view, he said, he wanted to know regarding Greenland. While EU Council President Antonio Costa said that the European Union will support Greenland and Denmark when needed and will not accept violations of international law, no matter where they occur. Costa said Cyprus was taking the helm of the EU Council at a time when the international rules-based order was under attack and urged EU member states to stand up against these developments.
On Greenland, allow me to be clear. Greenland belongs to its people. Nothing can be decided about Denmark and about Greenland without Denmark or without Greenland. They have the full support and solidarity of the European Union. Europe will remain a firm and unwavering champion of international law and multilateralism.
While US President Trump doubted that allies would be there for United States if Washington really needed them. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said his country will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for US. In his post, Trump repeated his frequent assertion that many members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization had failed to meet military spending commitments until he intervened, but also emphasized that the NATO member countries are all his friends. Trump highlighted that Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the United States as part of the alliance. And US President Donald Trump signed a presidential memorandum directing the withdrawal of the United States from 66 international organizations that no longer serve American interest. The memorandum orders all executive departments and agencies to cease participating in and funding 35 non-United Nations organizations and 31 UN entities. White House said this follows a review ordered earlier this year of all international intergovernmental organizations, conventions and treaties that the United States is a member of or a party to, or that the United States funds or supports. And a U.S. immigration agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in a car in Minneapolis on Wednesday amid an immigration enforcement surge. Now, U.S. authorities stated that the woman allegedly sought to ram ICE officers with a vehicle. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey dismissed the government's claim and urged ICE officers to leave the city during a second day of mass immigration raids.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed.
While U.S. President Donald Trump said the Minneapolis shooting appeared to be an act of self-defense, claiming the woman aggressively resisted officers and deliberately ran over an ICE agent, prompting the officer to shoot her. And on to some business news now. Oil prices fell on Wednesday following U.S. President Donald Trump's deal to import up to $2 billion worth of Venezuelan crude, while major stocks indexes ended mostly lower, with the U.S. financial and defense shares declining. On Wall Street, the Dow eased along with the S&P 500, but the Nasdaq finished higher. Stock indexes around the world had hit record highs this week, even after the U.S. intervention in Venezuela. European stocks snapped a run-off second record closes as investors paused to digest the latest US-Venezuela developments and assessed economic data. And in sports, Indian under-19 team thrashed South Africa by 233 runs in the third youth ODI to sweep the three-match series on Wednesday. Put into bat, stand-in skipper Suryavanshi once again went on a six-hitting spree to hammer this 100 in just 63 balls. He finished with 10 maximums and 9 boundaries in a fluent 74-ball 127. The 14-year-old from Bihar was ably supported by Aaron George, who compiled 118 off 106 balls as the duo laid the platform for a massive total with a 227-run opening stand. India piled up a mammoth 393 for 7, a target that proved well beyond South Africa, which was bowled out for 160 in 35 overs. Both teams now head into the Under-19 World Cup, which starts 15 January in Zimbabwe and Namibia. And the first giant panda cub born in Indonesia has completed 40 days in good health, marking a key milestone in China-Indonesia panda conservation cooperation. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.